In today's video, we are going to talk about the fifth largest economy in the world. Germany, Japan, India, Texas. Well, friends, the fifth largest economy in the world is none of these. We're talking about California, or at least it would be if it were a country, as it remains a state just like Texas. So, in today's video, we are going to answer several questions about California's independence. Are there really separatists in California? Could California actually become independent? What would it gain from doing so? If you're interested in the answers to these questions, don't leave the video. But before we start, let me tell you that California is home to some of the world's most important companies and fortunes. Hello to all the community of Finance for All, welcome to another video. California, as always, let's start with a brief historical overview. Like many other American territories, the area that is now California was once inhabited by a diverse group of indigenous tribes, including the Chumash, Miwok, and Togba, among others. Much later, after the Spanish conquest, the first mission was founded to convert these people to Christianity at San Diego de Alcala, now simply known as San Diego. This territory was part of the Viceroyalty of New Spain until 1821, when Mexico gained independence, making it the second country to possess California before the U.S. However, it didn't last long, because in 1848, with the gold rush and the outbreak of the Mexican-American War, a group of American settlers planted a flag with a bear, still the flag of California today. By 1850, California became the 31st state of the United States, and it signed a commitment to become a non-slave state, an important detail to remember for later. With all the gold in the region, California quickly became populated and experienced remarkable economic growth that has never ceased. By the late 19th century, California was connected to the rest of the country by railroad, becoming one of the main agricultural exporters of the United States. At the beginning of the 20th century, the cinematic revolution began, making Hollywood what it is today. During World War II, California became a key point for the production of airplanes and ships, causing its population to grow even more. Finally, in the second half of the 20th century, California became the technological epicenter of the world with Silicon Valley. In short, with this summary, we could say that if the planet needed a capital, California would be one of the most logical choices. This state has almost the same population as the entire Iberian Peninsula or Colombia. Now, on to the million-dollar question: who has ever wanted California's independence? Well, traditionally, California has always been a democratic and fairly progressive state. As we mentioned earlier, since its inclusion in the United States, California was one of the few southern states that rejected slavery. Additionally, due to its size, California is the state that contributes the most delegates to the House of Representatives. This has led to the emergence of small progressive movements, seeking to distance themselves from Deep America on issues such as immigration, environmental defense, and education, among others. The last time this topic gained any traction was in 2016. And that movement emerged as a response to the rejection of Donald Trump's entry into U.S. politics. A political action committee known as Yes California was formed, promoting the secession of California through a referendum. This initiative even gained the support of important public figures and Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, including the very young mayor of Campbell, California, Evan Lowe, a man we will probably hear more about in the future. Yes, California aimed to hold an independence referendum, but in 2017, one of its leaders, Louis Marinelli, moved to Russia, causing the movement to lose momentum and support due to concerns about potential foreign influence. Moving to Russia doesn't sit well over there, I'm not sure why. Since that moment, secessionist efforts in California have been minimal. Realistically, the chances of this independence ever materializing are extremely low. However, the Yes California uproar began during Trump's first term, and we're not yet sure whether we're heading towards a second term. Additionally, we've heard more and more comments about how the US is closer to a second civil war than ever before. We don't want to be alarmists, and we don't think this will happen in the short term, but it's clear that tensions in the country are a serious issue. So, while we've answered the video's question, no, we don't believe California could become independent, that doesn't mean we can't also answer the second question: what would California gain from independence? Let's analyze the secessionist arguments. The first and perhaps most important point is economic independence. Although the US is a highly decentralized country, part of the income is sent to the federal government. We're talking about the most important technological powerhouse on the planet. As mentioned in the introduction, California would become one of the largest economies in the world and one of the countries with the highest GDP per capita, surpassing nations like Norway. Of course, we are talking about the United States, and economic inequality in California is enormous. In fact, it's one of the most unequal states in the US, so not everything that glitters is gold, literally, in the land of the gold rush. Another pro-independence argument would be immigration control. This is a major issue for southern US states. First, we must note that California is a state with a massive immigrant population from many different countries, and it is a progressive state. Unlike other states, California implements sanctuary policies aimed at protecting undocumented immigrants and preventing them from being handed over to federal authorities. During Donald Trump's administration, these types of policies led to conflict between California and the federal government, similar to the situation with Biden's administration in the state of Texas, but for opposite reasons. On the other hand, California could have direct representation in international organizations and its own trade agreements. Could this really happen, or would it be similar to the situation between China and Taiwan? This is perhaps the most interesting point to explore. If the separation were peaceful, California would likely have direct access to the UN, NATO, and the long list of other Western supranational organizations, becoming something like Canada but with more resources. And if the separation were not so peaceful, what would happen to international geopolitics if the US didn't recognize California? It's curious to imagine a more conservative US with politicians like Trump or Bannon pushing to end aid to Ukraine, while meanwhile, in the Republic of California, home to a strong student activist movement, criticisms of Israel would likely increase. For its part, China would be thrilled to see its biggest competitor split in two, but who would they side with? And of course, Hollywood movies would change too. As you can see, we like to speculate, so let us know your opinion. Another advantage would be control over progressive policies. Environmental policies, LGBTQ rights, and women's rights are a big deal. Being one of the most progressive states in a country that's fighting not only to halt but to roll back these rights must be difficult. Lastly, California could manage the world's most important tech hub as it sees fit, creating an innovation-friendly environment with fewer tax regulations to attract investment like never before. However, the reality is that it's unclear whether California, without the rest of the US, would be able to attract more investment on its own, as by the time California became independent, a few destabilizing events would have likely occurred in the world. In conclusion, the idea of California's independence is an intriguing hypothetical scenario, but one that is highly unlikely to materialize in the foreseeable future. While California has the economic strength, technological innovation, and progressive values to potentially stand as a major global power, the practical and political hurdles it would face are immense. The state's deep integration with the United States, coupled with the complexity of secession, makes the idea more of a thought experiment than a real possibility. While movements like Yes California have emerged in response to political divisions, they have failed to gain lasting traction, and the broader geopolitical implications of such a move would likely be destabilizing for both the US and the world. Ultimately, while fun to speculate, the independence of California remains a distant and improbable dream. Without a doubt, the potential separation of California would be an earthquake for global politics. Although it probably won't happen for a long time, we thought it would be fun to explore the possibility. Now, what do you think? Would it be good for the world if California separated from the US? Let us know your opinion in the comments.